This election season is like no other. Certainly a lot of political ads, but there's something else you need to look out for. Fake, manipulated pictures, videos, and sound.
Yeah, and you know what? They're everywhere, and experts say they are trying to influence your vote. WDSU investigative reporter Cassie Sherm learns just how it's done and why it can be deceiving.
With technology these days and the use of social media, it can be pretty tricky to tell what is real from fake. Like this video here. This was all created by AI from my computer. I actually never said any of this. When I recorded the video, this is what I was talking about.
Now, some of the things I love about New Orleans is the food, the music, the culture.
What experts here in New Orleans say is very spooky, is the fact just about anyone can do this, and they have, trying to impact your thoughts and opinions.
What a bunch of malarkey.
The following statements were extracted from a robocall dispersed 2 days before the New Hampshire primary.
Voting this Tuesday only enables the Republicans in their quest to elect Donald Trump again.
These are not the words of President Joe Biden. They were created using AI-generated deepfake technology. This call represents one of the many ways deepfakes are being used to influence the 2024 U.S. presidential election. Deepfake is an image or recording that's been convincingly altered or manipulated to misrepresent someone who is doing something or saying something that was not actually done or said.
I didn't have any reason to believe that that was what I was doing.
Earlier this year, a political consultant paid this magician, who was in New Orleans at the time, $150 to do something that, to the untrained eye, would seem like magic. The job he was tasked with, creating an audio recording of Joe Biden saying something he never said.
It's important that you save your vote for the November election.
Yeah, it's a crazy story.
Paul Carpenter says he's helped consultants do this before.
When I did the Lindsey Graham, which I did listen to, it was nothing more than, if you're going to vote for blah, 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 then that's great. But if you're not, who would you vote for? Number one, Joe Biden. Number two, Ramaswamy. Number three. And that's what I'm in my mind thinking that that's what this was going to be. Same kind of ideology. So he says, can you do Biden? I said, yeah, let me go work on the voice.
Once you have audio, it only takes minutes to generate before being transformed into a robocall that reached 20,000 people.
Did you think when you were making that audio tape, though, that it could possibly impact people on voting?
No. He was always telling me the effect of, I'm creating a new product. We're only showing it to the campaign managers.
The robocall represented one of the first times a cloning deepfake was used for voter suppression. Other wide-reaching deepfakes have attempted to influence voting behaviors on social media platforms, too. For instance, on May 10, 2023, Donald Trump Jr. reposted a video on X, formerly Twitter, that received over 3 million views. In it, a deep fake of Anderson Cooper praising former President Donald Trump.
That was President Donald J. Trump.
Taylor Swift also called out President Trump for sharing AI-generated pictures of her backing him with Swifties for Trump. The Ron DeSantis campaign even shared a video on X that contained deepfake images of Trump hugging Dr. Anthony Fauci. The post received over 10 million views. Creating deepfakes like these used to take multiple weeks and could cost thousands of dollars, but now they can be made in a matter of minutes at little or no cost.
It's pretty good.
Nick Matei, associate professor for computer science at Tulane University, says it's a practice becoming more prominent.
I think there's going to be more and more stuff in this next election cycle that is going to more applications of generative AI and other technologies to trying to get people to vote or not vote or think certain things. So yeah, it's interesting.
Matei says it can be used for a lot of good, like how they're using it at Tulane.
They just had a big project. The president was on campus looking at using AI to help identify cancerous cells in tissue samples. And that's joint with the biomedical engineering as well. So that's a really big project we have going on.
But in the wrong hands.
Like a wrecking ball to bring down a building that's falling down, or you can use it to bring down a house that's perfectly fine, right? So you could add in a political candidate to a place where they'd never been, and that's a bad use of the exact same technology. And that's kind of one of those questions where things get a little gray.
The Federal Communication Commission announced in February that AI-generated audio clips and robocalls are illegal, but deepfakes on social media and in campaign advertisements aren't included.
Can influence people's decisions.
Concerning voters.
You know, if you're conservative and the AI plays into what you believe, then yeah, you're going to believe it.
And if you're a liberal, it's the same way.
Exactly the same.
Yeah, but you got to put on your your bifocals
your microscope and look at it and see what, you can tell the difference.
So we put voters to the test.
You guys think this is real or fake?
Fake.
I don't know. Fake.
You think it's fake?
I think it's fake.
It's actually real.
Too big.
It is big.
Yeah.
It is big. So yeah, this is a fake picture.
Yeah.
I think it's real.
It's actually a fake picture.
Really?
Yeah.
You know that's fake.
It's actually real.
For real?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
At least half of the U.S. is trying to combat the confusion with laws regulating the use of AI in political campaigns. Louisiana, though, is not one of them.
Because it is so dangerous.
This past legislative session, Representative Mandy Landry introduced a House bill designed to make it illegal to deceive voters with false impersonations or false depictions of political candidates through deepfakes.
This was actually more like stealing someone's identity, and it passed with flying colors through the House and Senate.
It was vetoed by the governor. The governor said, quote, "While I applaud the efforts to prevent false political attacks, I believe this bill creates serious First Amendment concerns as it relates to emerging technologies. The law is far from settled on this issue, and I believe more information is needed before such regulations are enshrined in a law. Legally speaking, it's already illegal to knowingly deceive voters."
I was a little bit surprised, but I know that there's concern in the political community, more concern limiting the attacks that can take place versus the First Amendment is what I learned.
There was also a Senate bill which would have required anyone making a deepfake video to label it as such, but that bill was not voted through either.
I'm a big fan of any state that's trying to do some type of legislation around labeling content proactively.
Dr. Jill Schifferbein, Chief Experience Officer at an AI intelligence company called Render, she says with how good the tech is, if things aren't labeled, you could lose the viewer's trust.
The line between what is real and what is a digital likeness or a synthetic video is becoming smaller and smaller every second.
How can viewers decipher what is real and what isn't real online right now?
You are looking at videos online. You can look for minor glitches, for discrepancies in the background, for slightly elongated objects, for background images that don't quite match up, and sometimes even random little numbers generated in small places in images. There's a lot of different tells that you can be looking for. Don't take it at face value. If you're wondering if it's too good to be true, oftentimes it is. So make sure you're verifying that information before massively sharing it at scale.
For more information on how not to get tricked by fake pictures or videos, you can go to our website, WDSU.com. In New Orleans, I'm Cassie Sherm. WDSU investigates.
Did Cassie really say that, or was that AI? The Louisiana legislature did pass a resolution requesting the Committee on Technology and Cybersecurity to study and make recommendations on how to regulate artificial intelligence. There is a similar initiative at the federal level, too, so just be careful and just stay vigilant.